Happy Friday. Welcome back to another episode of the Morph Market show, happening here every Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm your host, MJ from the Trap Talk Reptile Network. We have Brandon Nixon of Nixon Reptiles stepping up to the plate to discuss why it's best to say no to politics and yes to better business decisions. Let's go. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and let's welcome Brandon Nixon of Nixon Reptiles. Happy Friday, Brandon.
Same to you. Same to you.
Thanks for being here, buddy. How you doing?
Not too bad yourself. I see you got your old like kind of Verizon wireless polo, like professional attire.
You had to bring up Verizon. Why'd you have to do that, Brandon? Hey, you're not lying though. That's kind of what it feels like now. Now that I have a couple of these polos in my closet again, I've had nothing but ball python and like reptile t-shirts in my closet for the past 5 years, and to see a polo pop up again, it does kind of feel like, you know, the Verizon days. I'm not gonna lie.
I know it kind of does feel like I don't know, you're like getting like dressed up for work versus, you know, just bumming it, cleaning up a bunch of like snake junk.
Yeah, and listen, we don't always have to look like bums, right? I mean, we can freshen up, and I've seen you clean up nice yourself. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, you know, it doesn't hurt to get dressed up when needed. But listen, how you doing, Brandon? I'm glad to have you here. For the people who aren't too familiar with Nixon Reptiles, why don't you give us a little introductory? Let us know how long you've been using Morph Market, you know, all the good stuff.
Well, I mean, I've been keeping snakes since forever, which I think is like a thing that a lot of people that truly care about the animals and not just like the business side of things have been doing. Correct. I mean, like my first snake I ever caught, funny enough, was at like a Bible, like a back behind like a Bible study in like elementary school times. It was like a little, like just a little garter snake. But I've been using Morph Market since John, he went around emailing people back when Morph Market like first started. And it wasn't like I'm one of the founding members that was like paying for a thing, because, you know, the whole like just at the time, it's like everyone was using kingsnake.com, and it's, you know, that thing is so terribly outdated and so just like poorly ran and, you know, everything else. And I mean, that was even in like its heyday that it was like poorly done and poorly ran. Wow. But I was using that, and then John hit me up and, you know, got me over to try Morph Market. And that's basically where I've been posting, you know, my available animals ever since.
Yeah. So I was in a part of the King Snake days. I've seen maybe a couple of it, but I don't think I've had such a better time shopping for reptiles and Morph Market. Definitely could be addicting, but you know, I guess you have to shop responsibly. But kind of going back to you know, you being a Morph Market member, do you remember the year it was when you officially started using Morph Market? Like, was it a little bit after John came out with Morph Market, or when was it?
Oh no, it was like right when he started. So I want to say it was like 2017. I want to say if you go to your store, which if I pull up on my phone here, I can probably find.
Yeah, it says 2017 August.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, probably since like I said, since he started.
Yeah 20. And you know what's funny, August 10th 2017, so that's my birthday, but that's literally the year I joined like the reptile community. And like, you know, I went, you know, from having a private Instagram account to a public Instagram account, because I didn't even know better. You know, I remember I was holding myself back from the entire reptile world until I knew that, you know, unprivate your account and start using hashtags, et cetera, et cetera. But we all know once you hit Morph Market, like once you start dabbling the Morph Market ball python calculator and start shopping for stuff, you're in. I mean, once you get to that level, you're in.
Slippery slope.
Yeah. It's hard to stop. But what is the main focus for you, Brandon? Let's talk about the species that's really kind of helped you get to where you're at today, because we all know what you keep behind you, the racks. That's not cheap. You know, you've invested so much into the Nixon Reptiles brand. So what is the main focus for you that's helped you be successful?
Well, it's your favorite project that actually has helped build everything up, and you can already guess which one that one is. It's Sunset.
Oh, I love Sunset. No, really.
No, but,
so for real, Zoe, are you saying Sunset really helped elevate everything for you?
Yeah, like it really did. It really did. So awesome. Initially, for the longest time, I kept boas, and I had such spotty success with it, and it really like just started to be like soul crushing.
Yeah.
And some people do it so well, and they do such a good job with it as far as production and everything else. But man, I wasn't consistent. It's like some years it would go really good and other years it would be really bad. And I just enjoy the reptiles, and I've had ball pythons before. But the feeding live thing was just never like something that I enjoyed. One, because I like rats. I know you've talked about rats before. Like,
Yeah,
they're super friendly. They're beautiful little, like they're tiny little dogs. And I just couldn't feed live rats. So whenever I, became aware of the wonders of ASF, my first couple ball pythons, which were all sunset animals that I got from Brock, I was feeding all those frozen thawed for a while, and then I found a local ASF source and started feeding them that. And I mean, just those clutches basically paid for everything. But like you, I enjoy a lot of different species. I primarily do have more ball pythons than anything else. I have a small group of Burmese pythons, some blood pythons. And then Krista talked me into some leopard geckos recently. So I have some of those now, which, they're cool, man. I mean, they're just fun.
It's different, right? Like it's like, I hate to say it because I do love the ball pythons, but man, I can't imagine just having a rack of ball pythons and not having anything else, because we all know that ball pythons do what they do. They like to kind of be left alone. I mean, they'll tolerate being held, which is great for pets and family and stuff like that. But I think if a ball python could take a questionnaire or a survey, I guarantee they're going to say we'd rather just be left alone and kept in the dark. And that's how I feel, right? But you got other animals, you got other reptiles, which I'm sure like a Burmese, right? Like, even though a Burmese, I feel like rather just kind of just chill, it's a thinker, and it's something that does come to the glass. It's something that does know when something's in the room. And you got other like really cool gecko species that are just, I don't know. I think it keeps a fire spark in you for being in the reptile world personally,
Yeah, I think when you dabble with like different things, it kind of changes things up. Oh, and I forgot the little hognose. Those little guys are those guys are something, man. They're different. They're different, but it's just hilarious because they're literally like smaller than your finger. Yeah. And they're just huffing and puffing, and it's like they move so fast they like teleport to where you're at to try and like scare you away. It's really hilarious. Yeah. But I think like the newness of stuff, and then also just like the variety, it's just enjoyable dealing with it. And I mean, those other animals too, I mean, they all take frozen thawed reliably. And, for those reasons, I really like them. And I think a lot of people that are just getting into the hobby that maybe, maybe not liking the fact of like live feeding and stuff, these other species are very like valuable to be able to get people into the hobby.
Right. Are you okay if we pull up your Morph Market account? Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
So I want to ask you, Brandon, what do you feel like makes a strong Morph Market store, like presence wise? Like when you look at a Morph Market account, even yourself as a consumer, what are you looking for? Like, what do you pay attention to certain things in a listing? And do you feel like whatever it is that you're looking for does help people sell their animals, et cetera, et cetera?
So the thing that I feel like I look for the most, and it's not even necessarily, I mean, it's a feature of Morph Market, but that is like linking like your social media. So linking like your Instagram, linking your YouTube, different things like that is like a proof source that you are who you say you are. And then, obviously like the review system is also great because again, it's just like another layer of, what you're about or what you're doing. I think that a lot of people need to put a little bit of time and effort into taking a decent, proper like photo. I think the neutral backgrounds work the most because there's nothing necessarily distracting you from the animal. Like you're not going to have a background or anything else. As far as like a shoddy background. Now, if you have like, like your enclosures where you have like your green trees, like where if someone has something where there's like a little setup, like it's like a little, like just a little set, it's like something like that is nice and it's clean and it's consistent. And I think overall having a consistent situation is, I mean, it's just best. I mean, you see all those like scam profiles on like Instagram trying to sell other people's animals. And you can tell they're a scam like immediately because there's like 15 different rack systems and like different like floors and different walls. And it's just like all that stuff. I think continuity is really important.
And at what point was Nixon Reptiles a business for you? And when do you feel like that is necessary for someone to maybe consider if that's what they want to do?
I don't know. I think it goes back to, getting into the ball pythons and stuff, because like I said, success wise, like I really wasn't there with the boas, not enough to like any scale. Like I had clutches or litters where I did like well, but it wasn't until, again, like the ball pythons came around and I was able to like actually like scale stuff up as far as like number wise, production wise, being able to afford having like an ARS. And just, I mean, I've told Krista numbers of times, and she finally got herself an ARS. I'm like,
nice.
You need to get an ARS, because it's so much nicer just having all your animals in one unit versus like a bunch of different like rack systems and stuff like that. And, in a perfect world, we'd have stuff in a nice display setup or something like that, like the green trees and the emeralds, where you can actually like enjoy looking at them. But, it just goes to the nature of the ball pythons. I mean, they enjoy being a secretive animal and whatever else. But, we still pull one out and have like a little couch snake every once in a while to like watch a show or hang out with, because it is fun interacting with the animals. Like they're not strictly there just to make eggs and make babies and all that stuff. Like there is an actual like enjoyment of, the animals, and pulling one out every once in a while and just hanging out and enjoying it like you did whenever everybody first started,
Yeah. And that's kind of going back to the point of having different species, because, you can't help but to think like, the Sunset Project that literally helped elevate everything for you. It's kind of hard to get your mind off the money when stuff like that's happening, right? Yeah. But you do have other animals that you forget that you got into just for the sake of it being a pet, like you just enjoying it for what it is. And like, it's cool that you said that you still grab a ball python or grab a whatever it is that you're breeding and still hang out with it, because that's important too. Like remember what it is about what you're doing that made you do it in the first place. It's because it makes you happy. Yeah. But that's why, I had my take with the ball python game for a while, because all I could think about was the money side of things. And I tried not to, but that's all I could think about is the money. And I'm not going to lie, Brandon, I still do. Like when I work my ball pythons and I'm looking at my holdbacks, I only think about money. And, but I'm also thinking about how cool these animals look too. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't think the ball pythons I'm holding back aren't cool. I think they're really cool, but I'm also thinking about how cool it is about the money I could possibly make to get X, Y, and Z or whatever. All this came from ball pythons, not Sunset. I'll tell you that much.
Well, the part of it is, right, it's like for to do it at any form of scale, and I'm talking even a reasonable amount of animals, right? The amount of work and everything that goes into it. And I know you have like great rodent sources and all that stuff, but a lot of like, to do the ball python, like, I mean, I went part-time at my job strictly because like my rodent bill was just insanity. It made more sense to do part-time work and then breed my own rodents to be able to help offset that cost. Yeah. So it's like, you're not going to basically break your back working rodents, cleaning the snakes, doing all that stuff, if you're not able to get a reasonable return on your animals. And that's where I think like Morph Market is one. Just, I mean, it's the best place to sell your stuff. There's a lot of traffic and everything that goes there. You're not having to pay and do all this other weird website stuff on the background. And also like trying to get people from say your Instagram to like your website is, I mean, you're really hoping right there, like Morph Market has such a higher, just revenue stream or whatever. Just they have people that know what they're doing to be able to get people to that website. Now, of course, you are selling against your competitors, but at the same time, and I think that's where I think a lot of things are changing specifically with the ball python world, not so much with the other stuff, right? Because like the emerald tree boas, the green tree pythons, like
that's strong. That's sitting strong.
Well, any of those things are strong because those are locality based, not morph based or whatever else. Like it's lineage and other just visual factors. But it's, I mean, you just don't have a better place to be able to go for those things. And it's, you really have to start. And it's something that I feel like I'm on the cusp of getting to a point to where the holdbacks and the things that I've done in the past are going to do really well coming up. But it's still been like a long time coming as far as like all that stuff goes. Like the Sunset stuff helped, but then the last like year or two, some of the production is, they haven't necessarily been bad, but they've all been like building block pieces. But now it's the time where those building block pieces are going to be coming to fruition, and then it's going to be creating better things, which I think are going to do better, like through Morph Market. Like I know Darian, he said that, throughout the past, couple of months, that sales have been going up and up. And I'm sure the values necessarily haven't been doing the same, but more things are being moved. And I think there's more people that are getting into the hobby, like if Snake Discovery went out and said ball pythons are the greatest thing, every single ball python would be gone immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. But one thing I love about Morph Market is, as much as there could be competition, if you play your cards right, there could be a lot less competition based off your projects, right?
Oh,
like if you have,
yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
If you're working with something that's a lot of not really heavily worked with for whatever reason, and it's something you love, I mean, that's the thing you take advantage of in the ball python game. And I'm seeing people who've done that, who are standing out away from, I guess the bloodbath that's happening with a lot of people undercutting their projects. They're upset or not selling. And I don't know what, and I do want to bring, before we get to the meat potatoes of today's episode, I do want to ask you, like, for anyone out there upset because they're not selling on Morph Market, what do you say to that? Like, because, I don't know. I feel like anyone who's not having an issue selling on Morph Market, they're not complaining, right? But you do have people complaining that they aren't making sales and they're getting tire kickers, right? Which I feel like this is a part of what we do.
Hey, that's an opportunity.
Big time. So what do you have to say to that, Brandon? Anyone out there who's complaining about not having sales on Morph Market?
Well, first, just for your first thing about differentiating yourself, like I think like Juan is a great example of that. Like I know you had him on your main show.
Yeah,
but he's been making some like insane stuff, and it's honestly like banger after banger. Windy City Reptiles, like he's awesome. It's crazy. Like everything he shows, it's like something different, something new, and it's got like a different take on it for sure. But as far as like the sales on Morph Market, I feel like a few things. Like one, it's definitely very project based. As far as that goes, like my sales on Morph Market haven't necessarily been great lately, but they have been great in the past. But a lot of that is due to stuff that I have up there. There's other things out there. And I think right now, a lot of people are trying to, myself included, it's like, you may not want necessarily to have like a triple het unless you're, trying to come up. If you're someone that's been in a little bit longer, you might be like, okay, well, I could get the triple het for X, Y, or Z, or I can pay double that and get like a visual double het or whatever, So it's like, I think a lot of people are making like smarter decisions, I guess, in that regard of having a higher quality with like less quantity. So I feel like that can be a little bit hard. And I think a lot of things too, is as far as a lot of people producing the same projects. So that can also make it really difficult with, like you said, like the bloodbath that's going on. And I think overall there just is like, I don't know, like I hate saying it, but like an overproduction of stuff. Like, I seen like a meme that was shared the other day, and it's like, people that'll have like 300, 400 available animals from last year. And, and then they're like, pairing for 2025, and they haven't like sold out a majority of their 2024. And it's like, if you're still making the same like bad pairings, they're not necessarily bad pairings, but man, these animals live for a long time. Yeah. They're not like a little hamster, a little rat, and they're not going to be alive for 3-4 years. Like these things are like a 20+ year commitment. So, I think like myself included, like we need to be a little bit more conscious of the things that we're doing and the pairings that we're doing in order to prevent a bunch of stuff that is, not going to get the care or love that it deserves as like a living animal.
And I think one of the big things people don't consider in the beginning, because they're not even thinking straight. I'm one of them. When I first got into this, I didn't think anything about overhead, Brandon. I didn't even know. I mean, I've heard of overhead, but I didn't consider overhead at all the first fucking 5-6 years of being in the reptile industry. Like you don't think of the overhead that could potentially like damage your future in this hobby.
Yeah, there and that is like a big consideration. And that's one thing. And I actually have my first order coming today from like the shipping supplies that Morph Market's now putting out too. But I mean, even on the shipping supplies, like I want to say, like I ordered the same thing that I would normally order. I ordered like 12x9 and then 15x11 boxes for like adults and stuff. And then also like a bunch of heat packs. And I want to say, whenever you compare that to the other options that were out there, that was like 20-30 bucks that was a difference as far as like savings. And, you know, there might be people out there that try and play on heartstrings for like saving money. Like, okay, like boo-hoo, it's like, you know, a couple of bucks, but it's like, it's not just a couple of bucks. Like there's several, like I've been shipping since they opened up the Morph Market shipping, and every single time, like it's a drastic savings. And that dollar value, like one, it saves me. But whenever I'm, say, putting up stuff for auction, which that's the way a lot of stuff is moving these days, because something's only worth what someone's willing to pay. But it's like by putting that stuff on auction, like now my shipping prices are like $50 versus like 85 to like 100. And it's like, don't get me wrong, sometimes it might go a little bit over that, but on average, it's still within the around like the $50 range. And that's getting from here all the way to California. And over time, I mean, you're talking about shipping, you know, 10 packages and you're saving 10, 20, like 20 bucks at a time. Like that adds up extremely quick. And there's plenty of people that are shipping way more animals than I ship throughout the year for sure. So their savings is going to be exponential. I mean, you're talking about someone like Bob Vu, who you had on recently.
Yeah,
the number of animals that he's shipping per year, that's got to equate to literally like tens of thousands of dollars. Well, probably.
No,
not a mathematician.
No. I mean, neither am I, right? But at the end of the day, everything you're saying is so facts. And I, since we're opening up the floodgates here with Morph Market shipping, I got to tell you, you know, before taking on this role with Morph Market, you know, I think of a shipping company as a third-party service that they do, you know, I don't want to say they don't do nothing, but holy crap, FedEx is doing 90%, if not more, of what we're trying to get done here. And I do love that they all have great customer service. I don't think any shipping company in the reptile industry has bad customer service. I think they all do the service, but it's not anything that's like it's not anything that no one else can do. And so Morph Market's stepping up to the plate, okay? And let's think of a perfect world, right? There's so much you could do on Morph Market, but imagine selling or buying on Morph Market where the label, everything is intact into one website, right? First and foremost, simplicity is everything right now. If we could save time before the
one
money,
cohesive unit. Yeah.
Thank you, right? But then now we talk about the money part, which all we could just talk about is the money part, and it's enough, because you're right. People who want to tug on strings because you want to save a couple bucks, hey, newsflash, it's not a couple bucks. It's a lot of money. And it keeps stacking. If you keep looking at the savings over time, over a week, you got people who ship out every week. Obviously not right now, Brandon, because of the weather. But when things are up and cracking, you got people like Mark Bailey Reptiles, Bob Vu, Miguel Garcia, Justin, who are shipping out every week. And every single one of those boxes, $50 savings, $40 savings, $30 here. Even if it was $20 here, you know, like where does somebody need to look at themselves in the mirror, Brandon, and say, okay, I need to ignore these reptile politics that are on my shoulder telling me to use them and make smarter business decisions?
I don't know. I mean, you know, just in light of like your first comment, I mean, back when I like originally, you know, back in my day, you know, walking, you know, uphill both ways to school or whatever, I was shipping animals like everyone else was doing through UPS and through FedEx, just through UPS and through FedEx, you know, in just a regular box that said perishable with some mysterious air holes in it, you know. And that was before, you know, even like Ship Your Reptiles came out and started shipping them legally, right, or, you know, through the proper channels, because you could do it, but you had to get like approved, and there was a whole thing. And at the time, I don't think anybody was doing that. You just hoped for the best. And guess what? Nothing happened then either, you know. But so like you said, like, you know, if you have a problem with your package, you can call, but now you have a provider or service that can deal with that headache for you, but they're all going to do the same thing. So at the end of the day, like, it does come down to you making wise business choices. And here's the thing. So many people will try and nickel and dime over every single thing else. But then for some reason, when it comes to like your shipping, all of a sudden it turns into like this whole thing. And that I really just don't understand, because, you know, like we talked about, I mean, it adds up over time. And I will say too, like, aside from that, like the cohesiveness of, you know, if someone buys something from me, I can now go to that little plus sign down on the bottom and select like request shipping information or request shipping or whatever. And they fill that out with their information. It comes to me, and I have a little tab that just says book label. So then I just book that label. I literally just go in there, put my box size, and hit like submit. Like, it is no work whatsoever. And then I have that label there without going anywhere else or doing anything else. And that, I think, I mean, it just saves time. It just makes things so much easier. And then now I think too, which I haven't, obviously because of the, you know, weather and everything else, I think they recently added like some little like ticker marks that just automatically update from FedEx into the shipping area. So that way you can see like where things are at as far as like label created, like in like, you know, at facility or at hub or, you know, ready for pickup or whatever. Like, it just translates those into a nice little color coded thing so you can more easily, I guess, like follow your shipping process.
Yeah, let's talk about what also Darian's trying to do with the shipping side of Morph Market. He's putting in a lot of research and like analytics as far as how to stop these DOAs. Okay, because obviously, who wants to deal with the dead on arrival, right? But if Morph Market could have the least amount of DOAs in the entire industry, that's a goal for them. That's an important thing for Darian. Go ahead.
I was going to say what's funny before I lose my train of thought is that the main factor for those DOAs, like from what he's been saying, and I can believe it, is for one, people trying to save money.
Yeah. Right.
People are trying to save money because they're shipping in a small ass box.
Oh, dude, there's mine in there. Yeah.
They're trying to ship in the small box that is not regulated for the heat. You're not supposed to use a box any smaller than a 12x9 with a heat pack. And you have people that are trying to ship these little 7x7 cubes with a heat pack. They're cooking the animal. You'd be far better off not shipping with a heat pack. Don't use my words for this, but you'd be far better off not shipping with a heat pack and getting the animal there, because they can survive cool stuff way better than they can survive being overheated. Yeah. And that's the problem. I think a lot of the people are trying to save a couple bucks going down in box size, and then they end up cooking the animal when they could ship everything in a 12x9 for a very low and reasonable price. Even like these small, like little corn snakes and whatever else, it's like, don't get me wrong, during winter or during like summer and whatever, ship them in whatever box you seem fit. But I just think that 12x9 size is such like, it's such a reasonable box size. And especially with something so light as some of these babies are, you don't want them in this tiny little cube that can literally just get blown by the wind. So I don't know. I think that's a big factor though, is the box size with the DOAs.
And, you know, for me, I've shipped out plenty of the 7x7 boxes and not had an issue because I've never put a heat pack inside. Yeah. Mind you, I'm not stuffing it in there. I'm not using my elbow and like making sure, you know, it fits in there, you know, but the heat packs are so overused and it's just more of a like, oh, it's a reptile, cold-blooded, they need it. But you don't understand that. I mean, there's a chance this box could get left on the side of the road and it's in the cold. Okay, I get it. But no, these people, for the most part, have an area for these live animals. They are in a controlled temperature room. And I found all this out directly from FedEx employees, not other shipping companies. I found out directly what their protocols are. And so,
Darian, and that's for a live animal from anywhere. It doesn't matter. Yeah, if it's a live animal shipment marked with live animal, it goes in the same spot. It goes in a temperature controlled area to be there, I guess, until it goes wherever else it's supposed to be leaving to.
But add that on top of the freaking Sunday we're talking here, you know, saving money, saving time, but also keeping people from having DOAs, which is just going to come from teaching, right, Brandon? People just need to know, listen, you don't need that heat pack. This is when you use it. You should use a bigger box on this time, whenever, you know, but knowledge is power, right, Brandon? Like you were talking about, before shipping was even a thing in the reptile world and you had to do it like on the low, like you were just doing it you thought fit best. Like who was teaching you then? Nobody, you know? And so I feel like a lot of forums, right? But now those days are over. Like you have everything like this Morph Market show on Fridays and other people like yourself who, you know, like Krista has nothing but great Neurofy Exotic. Shout out to Krista, by the way. She has a lot of great things to say about you. So I know that you are also doing your part by, you know, talking to others, even mentoring maybe some others, and just maybe going back and forth. But, you know, knowledge is power in this. And I feel like the biggest thing that we have on our side are these social media platforms to teach people what to do and what not to do when it comes to shipping. And I think that's going to change everything.
Yeah, I think so too.
So overall, Brandon, let's kind of hear what your feedback is on Morph Market as a website, as a shipping company. Overall, what would be your closing statements on how you feel about Morph Market?
I mean, I like the fact that it's different from like just the way that King Snake was, because King Snake, you couldn't really search for anything. That made it really tough to be able to like find like the animals that you were looking for. There's a lot of features on there that I feel like I could use better, and I do use it for certain animals or certain things that I'm looking for, because you can even like just search like your followed stores. So if someone goes on there and they just follow you specifically or a group of people, they can like search for like, these are my top 10 breeders. These are the people I just want to see their available animals, and that's it. But overall, I do like it as far as the searchability, because if you're trying to find like a very specific animal for a specific project or just something to enjoy, it's so much easier to find that way. The one thing I do wish that they would put a little bit more time on, and I have been on to Darian about it, is not necessarily the husbandry part of it, but kind of, because it's more like towards like the breeding planner and the breeding, aspect. Because what I do like about that, and for whatever reason, I think there's a bug with it now. The other year when I used it, it was nice, because what I did is I basically created my males and my females. And then whenever I produce babies from it, I just hit like create offspring from this pairing. And then I was able to put all that stuff in there really easily. And I think that works really nice. I know one of your other sponsors for the other show was Clutch. But for being able to put those groups and those clutches in there is so nice, because you don't have to put it all over the place. You don't need to post it on a website, on the Morph Market, on Fauna, on the King Snake. It's all in one spot where you can have your collection, your available animals for sale, and then be able to list them up there for people to see and find. So I think that's super helpful.
Are you telling me, Brandon, that in a perfect world you would love to see Clutch on Morph Market and like a little integration going? Is that what you're telling me?
I mean, if they can figure it out and do it, but I know they only have the ball pythons on there now, so they need to add all the other species and animals. But
yeah,
just that stuff, and there's a lot of species. Just like those emerald tree boas and those green tree pythons, where the lineage of that stuff is important. So having those things that say Clutch does have towards the lineage and being able to follow that family tree would probably be pretty important, for like Morph Market to have also. So it probably wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing.
Last thing I want to say, ask you real quick, Brandon, before I let you go. For anyone out there who is in a tough spot, deciding who they should ship with because they don't want to make people upset. Mind you, some people that really matters to them, right? But at the end of the day, what's your suggestion for anyone out there?
It's that emotional currency.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I mean, it really comes down to what people want to do. And I'm not necessarily trying to like change people's minds on what they want to do with their situation.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it just makes more sense because of the fact that all that cash just adds up. And especially like doing my like real job of doing ultrasound like part-time and doing the snakes like with more of that time, if you're able to save a good amount like over the course of a year, I don't see how that's a bad choice. Like at the end of the day, it's about you and your situation.
Yes.
And what you're able to do. And I don't think that you need to have or should have other people that, one, make you feel bad about trying to do things that are right for you and like your family. Like, who knows, man? I mean, you ship a bunch of animals and you save like $1,000 or $2,000 over the course of the year. It's the same thing with like the breeding rodents, right? It's like it's cheaper to breed the rodents and produce them yourself than it is to buy them from another party. That additional savings, don't get me wrong, you lose it in time because you're spending more time with the rodents, but it's not the same thing with the shipping thing, right? You're saving that money. You could use it to go spend more time with your family, go to a trip somewhere or whatever else. I mean, get another animal that can help out your projects. I mean, there's infinite things that can be done that, make a good use of that money versus just spending it because you were, I don't know, guilted into using some other place.
Yeah.
And I mean, that goes for everything else. Like, people price shop every single thing. You go onto Amazon, you try and find the best deal for certain things. You're like, all right, well, this thing is, whatever. I don't know. It's just crazy to me that in every other situation, it makes sense. Like, I'm going to source the price where I can get the best price of cocoa, the best price of cypress, and whatever, all to, to save like an extra $1 per bag or $2 per bag. And you don't want to do the same thing to save $20-$30 for every box that you ship out. Like, it's just crazy to me. I don't understand why it is such a hard concept to understand why people would want to do that.
And you know what? Customers are starting to pick up on why certain people are charging $50 shipping versus $90 shipping. Like, they're starting to figure out, like, well, what's the big difference? Like, why are you doing that? And if it's worth you losing a sell over, God bless. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, the smaller animals, I think, are like, for the ball python, like, if you're selling an animal that's of any value of, I just include shipping and everything except for auction, so it doesn't really matter.
Right.
But like, bless your heart if you're selling a $500,000 animal and you're trying to charge $100 shipping or even $50 shipping. That should just be included. It just should. Like, that's just my opinion. But when you're talking about some of these lower priced animals, like some of these like little starter animals, like some of these little like king snakes or milk snakes or corn snakes or like any of these, for someone that comes onto Morph Market that's a new keeper, or say a parent that is looking for a snake for their kid, maybe they want to find a corn snake. Maybe they see that cute little pretty beautiful colored corn snake or milk snake or whatever that's like $75, but then they have to pay $100 to ship that $75 animal. That's insanity. Versus like when they're used to going on to Amazon and free shipping and next day and all that stuff. Now these sellers that have these lower priced animals, one, they can put like a $30 to $50 range for shipping, or they can just include it in their price. And now that $75 animal or whatever turns into like $110 animal, but it's free shipping. So now the buyer is like, oh, okay, like I can get that for my kid. It'll be a great little starter animal. They love the Animal Planet, whatever. I think that just has like a huge effect in the barrier to entry for a lot of these new keepers and new people that are potentially getting into the hobby, which is vastly important for everybody. Every keeper or every type of animal and everything else, having new keepers get into the hobby is beneficial.
Right. But these new keepers are the most vulnerable by being misled, I feel like. And I think for any new keeper listening right now, I feel like, Brandon, would you agree that you should vet the people you're listening to? Like, if somebody has a podcast out there, and if somebody is speaking strongly on something, how important do you feel like you should look into the person speaking? Like, actually seeing what their credentials are in the hobby. What have they done? What are they currently doing? Do they have any projects? Are they even breeding right now? All those things I feel like matters when taking advice from somebody.
Well, I think it's going to sound bad, but new people are gullible.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
on purpose. They're just excited, Brandon. Like, they're happy.
No, exactly. They're excited. They're filled with enthusiasm.
Yes.
And if they are in that situation, they're like a sponge. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's the same thing. Like, and it's funny because on light of the whole leopard gecko thing, I found a couple different like leopard gecko podcasts, and some of them are really good. And then I, found a bunch of videos pop up about that dude that you talked about a while back, and you know who I'm talking about, so I'm not going to go any further. But it's like a bunch of videos are popped up there, and then I hear all these other podcasts, and they're basically talking about how that guy's doing it all wrong, but because he has a large platform, because he does his things a certain way, you have new keepers that are coming in and be like, oh, that's the way to do that. Yeah. And I think sometimes a lot of newer keepers, or just people in general, I think they get blinded by the appearance of certain things, where it's like, oh, this is like super this way, or super like it's just that whole like, I don't know, I don't want to say like faking it till you make it kind of thing, but if you come off like exactly what you're talking about and you put that information out there, there are people that are going to hear that and be like, oh, this person's like the god of this information. And then they're going to try and soak that in. They're going to think that that's the right way. And there's so many different ways to do things, and there's so many different sources. I feel like you just need to listen to certain things and take in information from different sources, and then you can build what is, you know, your own opinion or your own ideals without being like misled or have, you know, kind of the wool over the sheep or whatever that whole saying is.
Yeah, and like I said, for any new keeper out there, it's definitely not your fault with the 100+ reptile podcasts that are out there floating around. I get it, but just please vet your people and get like a panel of advice. I feel like, but like at the end of the day, you as a person needs to figure out what feels right and what feels wrong. And nobody should force you to do what you feel like you shouldn't do. Do what you feel is right. But what we're getting at here, once this becomes a business side of things, okay, a lot of things don't get brushed under the rug, especially savings. Okay, savings is everything. I don't care what you say. I don't care how many Ferraris you have in your driveway. You still think about how you could save some scudots. You know what I mean? So listen, I got to say, Brandon, I wish we could keep going. I feel like, well, first and foremost, guys, I want Brandon back on Trap Talk Reptile Network. I'm going to organize a date with Brandon. So if you guys want more of this topic of conversation to continue, we'll get ready because I'm bringing Brandon back on Trap Talk. But for anyone out there who wants to know where to follow you, Brandon, why don't you just go and drop all your plugs, all your social media plugs for people out there?
Just everything's on Nixon Reptiles, although I haven't been posting a whole lot as much as I should, but it's all there. Just Nixon Reptiles on YouTube and on Instagram.
And who's somebody I should bring on, Brandon? And you know a lot of people. Who's somebody out there that loves using Morph Market and could bring some good topics here to the Morph Market Friday show? Anyone out there that stands out in your mind? Other than Krista, don't use Krista. I already got her. That's mine. So
well, yeah, she already has her own show and everything, right? But
yeah, give us somebody, Brandon. Come on.
I don't know. I mean, I could think of other people for your other show, but I mean, they'd work just fine for this too, But I mean, you have Corey DeLong, you have like Will, but Will barely uses Morph Market.
Will wants to. Here's the thing. Will's going to start using Morph Market more. So
he needs to. You don't even know. Yeah, you don't even know like when he has available stuff because he barely puts it up there.
Well, that's part of his shtick. Like that's Will's thing is like you've got a
mystery.
Yeah, but you can't knock him for it. It works. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Corey DeLong. Shout out to Corey DeLong. He's I have him scheduled coming on Trap Talk, but definitely would love to bring Corey on the Morph Market show. And I do have a list of some of the top Morph Market users out there. And you were on that list, Brandon. So I got to say thank you so much for coming on today's show and just being a good example for people out there and just taking care of our fellow keepers. You know what I mean? But guys, do me a favor. You can catch all of Brandon Nixon's social media plugs in the description below. So go give him a follow. But go enjoy the rest of your Friday, Brandon. Thank you so much. Give it up. It's a wrap for Brandon Nixon of Nixon Reptiles, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep. You as well. Thanks, man.
Thank you, Brandon. Have a good night or good day. Yep. I'm so confused. Take care. All right. Thank you so much, guys. If you enjoyed this episode, please get the likes up, hit that like button, drop a comment in the comment section what you like best. If you are using Morph Market shipping right now, I want to know what you like best out of using Morph Market shipping. Is it the savings? Is it the savings of time? Is it the simplicity? I don't know. Give me some feedback. Drop it in the comments. Be ready for next Friday. Okay. Next Friday will be the first Morph Market Friday show of 2025. And that means 2024 is in the books. And I just want to say from me and from Morph Market out there, we wish all you guys a successful 2025. I want you guys to go into next year with a positive mindset. Keep your chin up, okay? Because it's all about having fun in the reptile game. And that's what we want to bring you. Fun times in the reptile world, okay? So thank you so much, guys. Again, if you did enjoy this episode, if you're enjoying these Friday shows, hit that subscribe button. Help us get the subscribe button up and help us get the likes up because YouTube will put us in the algorithm and get other people's attention that we need in this, okay? So thank you so much, guys. I really hope you enjoyed your holiday. Again, Happy New Year to everybody out there. I'll catch you here next Friday for the Morph Market show. It's a wrap. Have a good day, and I'm out.